can't anything just be normal here? Like, there's always something going on. The latest, what's going on with Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava, and some things that we all need to think about, in my opinion. We're gonna break it down here. Pull up a chair. We'll talk here on a Friday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Good Friday morning. Appreciate you guys for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every single morning. We got a lot to talk about here today. You guys know it. Orange and White games coming up tomorrow. What I was going to open the show with and kind of have be my lead segment. We're going to push down to segment number 2, some things that we want to see in the Orange and White game coming up tomorrow, starting at 2 o'clock from Neyland Stadium. That's coming up in segment number 2. Tennessee has a transfer portal football visitor. Yes, a graduate transfer that's been in the portal for a couple weeks. Who is he? What does he bring to the table? And kind of where does Tennessee stand in all this? Going up in segment number 3. Number 5, Tennessee baseball. At number 6, Ole Miss in Oxford this weekend. What you need to know about the Rebels. But the lead of this show, and maybe this will overtake the show if I haven't talked enough and got enough out of what I wanted to say. Maybe we'll go into segment number 2. It's Nico Iamaleava and kind of where we stand, what the latest is. And if you lived under a rock, or you're just late tuning into the show, or maybe you were doom scrolling, you just happened to pass this and didn't give it much thought, but chances are you're watching this show free and available wherever you get your podcast. You are a diehard Tennessee football fan, and you've read everything you can read about it. And maybe you're waiting to hear what I have to say about it. I'm not that important, but nonetheless, it's Nico Iamaleava. On 3's Pete Nakos, national reporter. He reported yesterday that in a move that many around the program expected, quoting straight from his lead paragraph, On 3 has learned that Nico Iamaleava and Tennessee are in active negotiations on a new NIL deal ahead of the 2025 season. It remains unclear if those negotiations will impact Iamaleava's decision regarding the spring transfer portal window, which of course opens next week, end quote. So as a Tennessee football fan, you see that and you're like, oh my gosh, again, what are we doing, right? Like, we just went through this with Mike Matthews. We just went through this with Boo Carter. We just went through this here in spring with Ricky Gibson. I mean, what are we doing? And I hear you. And that's kind of why I want to steer this conversation. Where we are in college football athletics, college football, college basketball, college baseball, college athletics, it's kind of turning the most diehard fan just turning the cheek, right? You want to go like, I'm tired of that. I'm tired of seeing this. You asked me for increase in season ticket obligations, talent fees now. Oh, I need to give to a collective so that my favorite team can be as successful and as good as it can be on Saturdays in the fall. You're asking me to do this, to do this, to do this, to do this. And I sit here and I watch my favorite players. I watch the guys that I like repping the Power T, or, whatever program you're out there supporting. I have to watch them, openly in the public eye kind of go through this leverage game. And I'm not saying that Nico's situation right now was intended to be in the public eye. It might seem that way. I don't know that. So I'm not saying that, okay? But right, wrong, and different, it's in the public eye now. And so wasn't it so much better? And this still happens. There's a lot of times this stuff happens that we have no idea about. And don't you like it better that way, right? Ignorance is bliss. This happens all over the country. It just feels like it happens a lot more at Tennessee because somehow it's getting into, the public, the public perception and all that. So I don't know if this was a leverage play to get out in the public. You would think, right, if you're just kind of a bystander sitting here like, oh, well, put it in front of the public eye, put the pressure on Tennessee, yada, yada, get more money. Like, that makes sense. And I'm not saying that's not what this is, but I don't know if this was if this was an intended public play. I can tell you that, with Ricky Gibson, that was an intended public play. Boo Carter, that was more of the former. I don't know if this was intended to be this way, but here you are. And so in the grand scheme of things, negotiating a new NIL deal in 2025, that's not unheard of. That's not against the rules. That's not a huge story. But where this is different is you have a quarterback in Nico Iamaleava. And it's funny, right? Timing's everything, right? I was joking with my buddies. I was like, oh, man, I did a segment on yesterday's show talking about Nico Iamaleava being underrated. Wow, great timing. I'm about to have a baby, right? My wife is. I'm there. I'm not going to take credit. I'm part of that situation. We're about to have a baby. I have pre-recorded 4 episodes, so when the baby comes, I can just schedule and, you guys are taken care of, and I can spend time with, my wife and kid. Like I've done the work. It's baseball season right now for me. I ain't got time. I've done the work. And of course, Nico Iamaleava's name is all over those episodes, right? Because he's the quarterback at the University of Tennessee. So personally, selfishly, for me, I feel like I'm a preacher right now at the pulpit, just preaching. If he leaves, I am going to be irate because I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and record new episodes when my babies are out. I'm going to be a dad for the first time in my life, right? Like, I'm going to be so mad. But anyway, it's just one of those things to where negotiating an NIL deal, that's not the end of the world. That's not illegal. That happens all the time. Per Pete's report here, it's unclear if this would, have any impact on him jumping in the portal. Nowhere is this reporting that he's going to go in the portal. Nowhere is this reporting that he's implied that he's going to go in the portal. All that's been reported is he's negotiating a new NIL deal. And so, but here's the difference between Nico and a guy like, let's use the Kai Ziegler, for example, okay? You pick another player you want. Like, Nico was kind of the first athlete that was reported to make big-time bucks in the NIL era, okay? And, there's some numbers here in this story. I don't like talking about people's numbers like that. I know it's in the open public. But the fact of the matter is, Nico, he makes a pretty penny, okay? He makes a pretty penny. There's no denying that. So from a fan's perspective, you already know, regardless if it's 2.1, 2.4, whatever it is, 1.8, whatever it is, you already know that he's making more money than you are, that I am, or whatever the case is. And again, I did the show on it yesterday. I think he was fine last year. Got room to grow. He should grow. He's taken steps to be a leader and all that. But there's another gear. There's definitely another gear. So from a fan's perspective, where they're being tasked with increase in ticket prices and parking passes and NIL collectives and talent fees, and you're sitting here, it's like, I give so much that there's a portion of the fan base to where if he's Tennessee's quarterback in 25, whether he enters the transfer portal, whether he enters the transfer portal and elects to come back, whatever the case is, right? It feels like there's not a whole lot of winners here. Because there will be some fans that will just never like Nico again. And there's so many layers to this. And again, it's evolving, right? I mean, this is constantly changing. And I don't think this is going to be hanging around very long, right? I'm not calling my shot saying this is a nothing burger, but I'm not sitting here saying that this is catastrophic and the end of the world because we just don't know yet, okay? Like I said, there's been no report. Pete Nakos did not report he's going to the portal. He said it's unclear whether this would impact that or whatever. Yeah, let's stretch this on into segment number 2 because I'm humming here. I got some more things to say, but the bottom line is public fan perspective. It's a big deal. And I think regardless of the outcome of this, it just kind of stinks. If Nico were to leave, fans are going to hate him. If this is nothing and Nico's still on the team, some fans are still not going to like him. How does this affect the locker room? How does this affect his teammates where you've been saying all the right things all spring? Your teammates have been saying the right things about you. Yet you can't, like, there's this thing happening right now. How does this affect the locker room? I don't know. Let's continue this conversation when we return right here on Locked On Vols. Got plenty more to say, plus plenty more topics to get into here on a busy Friday morning. Locked On Vols. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, every everything, say that 10 times fast, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. That is TurboTax.com/guarantees. Hey guys, welcome back into your Friday morning Locked On Vols. Just kind of sitting here, and this is why I love doing this job, because and again, it's a blessing. It's fun. Like, yeah, it's a lot of work on top of, another job, but I mean, who wouldn't want to do this? This is awesome. Now, talking about our subject that we're talking about today, it kind of stinks, but my point that I'm getting at here is, like, I feel like, though I can't see you, I can't hear you, I do communicate with some of you guys on social media. I do see you guys out in public. It feels like we're all just sitting around, just hashing this out. Feels like we're sitting at the bar having some drinks and just talking about this. I mean, that's what I like about this platform. And when we have subjects like today, it kind of stinks. It stinks. And it's not a whole lot of fun to talk about, but I feel like we're just kind of like talking through it together. So again, to reiterate, Pete Nakos on 3 reporting that Tennessee and quarterback Nico Iamaleava are currently undergoing NIL negotiations. He says specifically in his reporting, it remains unclear if those negotiations will impact Iamaleava's decision regarding spring transfer portal, which opens next week. So let me be abundantly clear. Nobody said that Nico's leaving. Nobody said that Nico intends to leave. And maybe this is a conversation for another day, but again, since this is out there, put this in perspective in terms of where we are on the calendar. We're in April. Spring practice, if you're not done, you're about done. Tennessee's orange and white game, which I promise I'll get into a little bit of a checklist here in a moment. I mean, that's going to be done tomorrow. Like you are very much into the offseason. Next is get back into the weight room, continuing the offseason workouts and throwing and all that type of stuff. Fall camp's coming up towards the end of July, early August, and then it's fall camp, and then it's practice, and then it's game time. Okay? It is not great. It is not ideal to add a quarterback in the month of April to learn a whole new system, to learn a whole new scheme, and to say go and expect said quarterback to perform well on all this short notice. That just doesn't seem ideal. I'm not saying it's impossible. We've seen it before, but it just doesn't seem ideal. So, and like you're sitting here thinking, like, remember, the second spring transfer portal window, you can't go SEC to SEC. Sure, we'll take it to court, sue, all that type of stuff. Okay, yeah, you can do that. I mean, NCAA started winning some more here lately, but, they've lost a lot as well. How long is that going to take? The House settlement's getting going. When is all that going to be passed? Like, there's so many things that, the full court press is being put on right now to try to maximize what, said player can get in this current landscape. And half of this, I don't like I get it. Like, I understand it. This whole deal, it's just frustrating for, obviously a number of reasons. So, like, what's Saturday going to look like? What's tomorrow going to look like? I mean, I reached out to a couple different people. I was like, hey, just making sure, like, Nico's still going to play in the orange and white game. Like, why wouldn't he, right? I mean, and they said, yeah, as far as I know, but, like, how are people going to respond? How are people going to view Nico out there playing on Saturday? Again, I want to be clear as well. I'm not in the know. I'm not in on the ground floor. I'm not a part of his team. Like, I'm just a reporter. I have a platform. I talk. I try to be responsible as I can be, but I do feel like this whole thing is going to move quickly. Like, I don't think this is going to be a lingering thing. I don't. So maybe by the time the orange and white game happens, it's all settled up, ready to roll, and just moving on. And that's how things work. That's how it happened with Boo Carter. That's how it happened with Mike Matthews. That's how it happened with Ricky. That's how it really happened with Ricky Gibson, with the report coming out right before spring practice, and he's out there on the practice field. Everything's good. Just move on. Maybe this is all said and done and delivered, and everything's okay by the orange and white game, this time tomorrow or something. I don't know. We will see. But it is interesting. My whole point of this fireside chat, okay, is that fans' perspective, it's just tough right now because the fans are being asked to do this, that, and the other, and you're having to deal with this. Like, college football, college athletics, It's straight professional without the regulation. There's no CBA. There's no contract. There's no multi-year contracts or anything. It's tough. None of this is public record. Like, it's tough. And so how much more can the fan take? And that's why I look at this whole situation as it's a lose-lose. Because, people ask me, again, time of this recording, you guys know you're watching this after I recorded it. People have asked me all day today, all afternoon here on a Wednesday or Thursday, like, do you think Nico's really going to leave? And my personal opinion is no. It doesn't make enough sense for a guy like Nico to leave right now. It just doesn't make enough sense. Could I see it happening? Absolutely. But to me, it just doesn't make sense at the time of this recording. So that would mean that negotiations went well, and Nico's still a member of Tennessee's football team. Nico's still the quarterback. I'm saying it's a lose-lose because, like, you would think Tennessee's the winner in that regard because you got your quarterback, and that's great. I would rather have Nico than not have Nico. But again, there'll be some fans that will just never like him again. And it's tough. It's tough. Again, was this supposed to be a public play? I'm not convinced, okay? I'm not convinced this was intentionally supposed to be a public play. But it is, and that's kind of where we are. And so say Nico is not your quarterback. I mean, like, again, where are you going to go? Like, you can't go SEC to SEC. West Coast makes a lot of sense. Oregon, well, Dante Moore's been out there, and he backed up Dylan Gabriel last year. He's been waiting his time. Former 5-star quarterback that was, Nico's classmate in 2023. What about USC? Well, doesn't the Trojans have a 5-star quarterback that they were going to be playing a little bit, kind of combining the guy that ended last year along with their 5-star quarterback? I think. I don't cover the Trojans. UCLA, what's going on there? I don't know, but you can't go SEC. Miami's got your quarterback in Carson Beck already. Okay. Where are you going to go? And I'm sure there's places you can go and all that. But again, if you were said program, is it worth that for a guy that would be leaving in December after the season anyway? I don't know. There's a lot of things that still we just don't know in this regard. But I guess again, I've said this a couple of times. I know I'm rambling and talking in circles. Those are the best conversations. It's just fans' perspective is what it is. And I feel like this whole thing stinks. And it's going to stink. Because if you have fans or donors that just say, this is what I wanted to say a moment ago, and I got so sidetracked I forgot. Say you have fans or donors say, oh, just let him walk. I'm so tired of this. Just let him walk. Let him walk. Let him walk. Easier said than done. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but easier said than done. Why? Because, number one, Jake Merklinger has had a fantastic spring, and that's great. That is great depth piece. He's continuing to build and grow, and that is awesome for Jake Merklinger, and that is awesome for Tennessee. Is Jake Merklinger ready to start against Syracuse? Is Jake Merklinger ready to go to the Swamp, to go to Tuscaloosa? Is Jake Merklinger ready to be the starting quarterback when Tennessee plays Georgia at Neyland Stadium the first couple weeks of the year? I'm going to say no, okay? George McIntyre is a true freshman and has a long way to go. Who are you going to get in the transfer portal that's going to be worth it? Like, if Nico goes in the transfer portal, I mean, that is highly not unlikely. That is very unique to have a player of Nico's caliber go into the portal at this time. If that were to happen. If that were to happen. You know what I'm saying? So it's easier said than done. Plus, when you look at the schedule kind of sets up nicely. You have Nico back here, second year as a starting quarterback. You get Georgia at home earlier in the year. You get Syracuse to lead off. But again, you have home games against Oklahoma. You're going to Starkville. You still play Vanderbilt. You still play Kentucky. Like, your schedule, I'm not going to call it easy because it's not, but your schedule is very navigable. Is that a word? You can navigate through your schedule towards 10 wins pretty well. Can you do that with somebody else not named Nico or a backup in Jake Merklinger? Like, Hendon Hooker ain't coming through the portal right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, Joe Milton's not coming through the portal right now. So let him go. Let him walk. I'm tired of this. I hear you. Then that's fair if you want to believe that. I do think it's easier said than done. So anyway, again, I apologize. I've been rambling. In conclusion, was this supposed to be a public play? I don't know. I'm not convinced. I don't know. So I don't want to sit here and label like, oh, just, horrible by his team, his agent, family, whatever. I don't want to sit here and do that because I don't know if this is supposed to be a public play. What I do know is that it is. It is. And the fans' perspective moving forward, it's just tired, in my opinion. And that stinks because I think Nico's a great kid. I think he's got so much talent. I genuinely like, the interactions that I've had with him in recruiting and, of course, covering the team. So we'll see what happens. I do think this will move quickly, but I do think it's a lose-lose. It's unfortunate. So hopefully there'll be some news in this regard, maybe later today, maybe over the weekend. I might pop back on here and do a mini pod or something like that. But this isn't something that's massive, okay? But it would be silly for me not to discuss this on the show today, right? It'd be irresponsible for me not to do that for you, the viewers, for you, the everydayers, right? Because this is the biggest story in college football today, right now. And so at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. But it's out there. Reported by Pete Nakos on 3 that Nico Iamaleava is negotiating with Tennessee on a new NIL deal. What's to come of that? If things go well, great. If things don't, what happens there? We don't know. Stay tuned. We'll continue to follow this developing story right here on Locked On Vols. Tennessee has a transfer portal visitor on campus right now, and the checklist for Tennessee in the orange and white game. We'll discuss all that and more as we continue this Friday Locked On Vols. All right, Tennessee has a transfer portal visitor on campus right now by the name of Cam Rice, coming over from Ohio, where he spent last season. He entered the transfer portal as a graduate transfer on April the 2nd and has quickly already been picking up a whole lot of offers. Tennessee offered him, I want to say 2 or 3 days when he was in the portal. Cal, Virginia Tech, UCF, USF, Minnesota, Purdue, Indiana, Mississippi State, Maryland, West Virginia, Boise State, among a couple of other teams. Cam Rice, a defensive lineman, and Matt Ray had this story. Learned that he's on campus on Thursday into Friday morning, it appears. So at the defensive tackle spot last fall for Ohio, Rice had 30 tackles, 9 TFLs, 3 sacks. Listen to this path that he took to get to Ohio. He originally started his career at West Virginia as a walk-on linebacker. He transferred down to Division II's West Liberty, where he moved down to the defensive line, I believe. He was a Harlan Hill Trophy nominee. Hello, you guys. Hey, I played D2. Harlan Hill's our finalist, all right? He was a Harlan Hill Trophy nominee, a Cliff Harris Award finalist, all Super Region 1 second team, all MEC first team, yada, yada, yada. D2Football.com National Defensive Player of the Week 1 week. He had tons of accolades. 2023, he had 58 tackles, 23 TFLs, 9 sacks on the year. So that's probably when he was still playing linebacker. But then went to Ohio, where, of course, he played defensive tackle. He's on the defensive line. He'll have 1 year of eligibility remaining. So this makes sense. This makes all the sense in the world. Tennessee needs defensive tackle bodies because they don't have a lot right now. 6'3", 290 is what Pro Football Focus lists him. And last year at Ohio, he played 322 total snaps. In 2021, when he was a walk-on at West Virginia, he played 7 snaps. So there's that. And, of course, his Division II numbers aren't in here. But 322 total snaps from the interior of the defensive line last year at Ohio. That's good stuff. Sign me up for that. And we'll see kind of how Tennessee does on this visit. And maybe if he could be a part of the future for Tennessee. Now, because he's a grad transfer, he could enter the portal and Tennessee could entertain that. The portal officially opens for undergraduates coming up for the spring session next week. And that's the whole thing. I didn't even mention this in my 2-segment monologue about Nico. Like, the spring portal is the issue here. NIL is NIL. The spring portal just gives the players so much leverage. Get rid of the spring portal. Get rid of the spring portal. Okay, got a couple of minutes left here, and let me tell you what the 5 things I'm looking for at the orange and white game tomorrow. Number 5, I'm looking at the center position. William Satterwhite's had a pretty good spring, okay? Max Anderson has been told to have a pretty good spring. Both those guys are centers. Because of the emergence of Shami Morov, does that mean Sam Pendleton slides over and plays some center a little bit with the first team tomorrow? I don't know. I'm looking at the center position and who snaps the football and what that looks like. Number 5, the center position. Number 4, I'm looking at backup cornerback and backup star. That's been a huge story all spring long. Jermon McCoy out, with injury. Ricky Gibson, Jalen McMurray, those are the 2 starting corners. What do you have behind them? Caleb Beasley moved to safety. Marcus Gorey's been out a little bit. What do you have behind those guys at corner? What do you have behind Boo Carter at star, who is going to play a little bit of offense, going to return punts, going to play defense? He's going to get tired. There's no Christian Harrison here, so who's going to back up Boo Carter at star? Dylan Lewis was getting some run. I think Ty Redmond's been getting some run a little bit. Marcus Gorey, before he was out, I think was getting some run. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to be looking at that tomorrow in the orange and white game. Number 3, freshman wide receivers. Rodarius Jackson's had a really, really good spring camp. I think Travis Smith, had his moments for sure. Those 2 guys are going to get a whole lot of playing time. They're going to get a whole lot of balls thrown their way simply because there's not a whole lot of wide receivers. I'll be watching the freshman wide receivers tomorrow for sure. Number 2 is David Sanders. This will be the most extensive look any of us have gotten of David Sanders. Where is he strength-wise? Where is he knowledge of the scheme, of the offense? Does he look lost? How's his feet? We get to see individual drills a lot, and he looks good doing that. I'm super, super pumped to see what David Sanders looks like playing in the orange and white game. And then number 1, he was not going to be number 1 for me before today, but of course it's going to be Nico Iamaleava. What does he look like out there? How do the fans treat him? I mean, that's a serious question. Some fans are going to be mad. Throws an incompletion. How are the fans going to react? Again, it's not my obligation. It is not my role to tell anybody how to fan. That is not who I am. But there will be some angry people, like that. Will they clap when he throws a touchdown? I don't know. This whole thing is just it's a mess, in my opinion. So I'm going to be watching Nico. Hopefully all this is put to bed here soon. Hopefully by the time the orange and white game is here, this is it's still going to be fresh, but it's put to bed. Everything's good. He goes out there and balls out, and you officially go into the next phase of the offseason feeling good. That would be awesome. But all eyes are going to be on Nico Iamaleava now in the spring game. Not necessarily to see if he plays well or if he throws a lot of touchdowns or whatever. It's just going to be kind of looking at how he goes about his business after the newsworthy day here on a Thursday, and more news I'm sure to come on a Friday. This has been Locked On Vols. Guys, I can't thank you enough for being here and making Locked On Vols your first listen today. For your second listen, I encourage you to check out Locked On the NFL Draft with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. As your favorite collegiate players get ready for the next level, get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news of the day first. Or find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Again, that is Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you find your podcast. I appreciate you guys. I really do. Everydayers for being here. Hope this fit therapy session helped a little bit. But the biggest thing is this is a developing story. We'll see what today holds, and we'll see what tomorrow holds. And again, all we know right now is what was reported by Pete Nakos. Negotiations are ongoing for a new NIL deal. So what happens from here? We will find out, and we'll tell you, we'll update it, we'll talk about everything right here at Locked On Vols.